Withholding clearance certificates for Australian residents. Understanding Australian resident clearance certificates and foreign resident capital gains. Withholding clearance. Certificates for Australian residents. Foreign resident capital gains withholding, FRCGW, must be withheld on all real property sales, unless the vendor is an Australian resident for tax purposes. All Australian residents, for tax purposes, selling or disposing of Australian real property, must have a clearance certificate and give it to the purchaser at or before settlement. Without a clearance certificate, the purchaser must withhold up to 15% of the sale, or market value if not sold at arm's length, for foreign resident capital gains withholding, FRCGW, purposes. Clearance certificates. Most clearance certificates issue within a few days, but some can take up to 28 days to process and issue. Apply for a clearance certificate as soon as you think about selling a property. The vendor or seller is the entity that owns the legal title to the property. An ATO-issued clearance certificate confirms the vendor's Australian residency for foreign capital gains withholding. When selling Australian real property, you don't have to wait to sign a contract. Apply for a clearance certificate as soon as you're thinking of selling. They are free. Each vendor must give their clearance certificate to the purchaser before the settlement date. Most clearance certificates will issue within a few days, but some can take up to 28 days to process and issue. If there's no clearance certificate provided by the vendor by the settlement date, the purchaser must withhold an amount of FRCGW and pay it to what clearance certificates are valid for 12 months from their date of issue, as long as the vendor's residency status doesn't change during that time. If you decide not to sell, but have a clearance certificate, there's no requirement to use it. If a vendor is a non-individual entity, for example a super fund, partnership, trust or company, see clearance certificates in certain circumstances. In certain circumstances, the property can be looked after on behalf of another entity, for example, a trustee for a deceased estate. Note: when vendors don't have a valid clearance certificate from us at or before settlement, the purchaser must withhold a FRCGW amount from the sale.